Okay, so I think, Peter, we'll let you take the lead. We're going to have a quick chat about cyber threats and security.
Yeah, thanks, James. So exactly that. So we thought this is cool, kicking off a new year. It'd be good just to think about what are the biggest threats we perceive to Google Workspace over the next year. Gemini helped me with some deep research on this topic as well while I've been researching this. So yeah, let's dive into it. Of course, quick reminder, as always, don't make any changes to your domain while you're on this call. We don't want to surprise any of your users or break anything. So just make a note of what changes you want to make and discuss it with your team first of all. But yeah, let's get into the threat horizon, starting with AI enhanced phishing. So phishing has been an attack type, of course, for many years now. Previously, we were looking out for things like emails from Nigerian princes or very badly written messages. But of course, now with AI, it's now possible for attackers to use large language models to generate thousands and thousands of variations of the same phishing emails, making it harder to automatically detect those based on kind of hash-based signatures. And also, there's evidence of hybrid attacks as well. So, starting with an email and then automatically followed up with a voice call if the attackers have got the phone number as well. So, a few things to look out for there. I'm going to do now actually is if we switch into the admin console, I just want to talk through a few things you can do to protect against these kinds of threats. So
I saw a very clever phishing email this week. It was sent to Americans, and it was it said, "Oh, this is from your email provider, from Gmail or whatever." And it's to show our support for ICE. We're going to give a donation of $1 from each user, or whatever. And obviously, that's a pretty polarizing topic in the US. So, like, there was a click here to opt out of this donation to ICE, and a lot of people clicked on it. And so it was like, like you mentioned, obviously there's AI sound, but phishing messages are getting cleverer as well. Generally, there's a lot of misspelled domains and a lot of very well targeted emails.
Yeah, exactly that. And of course, with AI, it's much easier now to kind of generate much more up-to-date messages very quickly. So, like you say, very topical. So, yeah, let me jump into the admin console. I'm just going to walk through a few simple things you can enable just to make sure all of the best email security features are turned on to offer the best protection for your domain. So, first of all, let's go into apps and Gmail. And I think most people on this call will probably already be on Education Plus. So if you are, I highly recommend going into your spam, phishing, and malware settings. And the first one I want to mention here is the Security Sandbox. This checks not necessarily phishing per se, but it looks at attachments in emails. If Google sees an attachment in an email message, it will open that up, detonate that attachment, if you like, within a private secure sandbox area. And if anything unusual happens, it will then automatically block that attachment. So just a single checkbox to check and make sure that's enabled for all your users. Likewise, make sure this setting, which got introduced last year, is also enabled. So this looks for suspicious links within messages and uses Google's Chrome Safe Browsing database to block those in real time and reclassify those as spam and phishing. And the last one here is also just make sure that you have enabled enhanced pre-delivery message scanning, which helps Google improve the detection of suspicious content. So that's spam, phishing, and malware settings. There was also, just to highlight, the safety tab as well. And I recommend just turning on all of these settings. So we've got settings here to protect against malicious attachment types, links and external images which are suspicious. But most pertinent to this discussion is this set of controls for spoofing and authentication. So we want to make sure that we're protecting against domain name spoofing. So an attacker registering a very similar domain name to your own and trying to use that against you. And top tip, I'd recommend just going and registering any similar domain names to your own and make sure you've got those, so someone else can't get them first. You can also protect against spoofing of employee names and protect against inbound messages when they don't have proper authentication. So if they don't have a proper SPF or DKIM record, then let's just reject that message. Cool. And the only other thing I just wanted to mention here, so if I go back to my presentation quickly. So think about this in two stages. You're protecting users against those emails, but your users also need to be secure, and it's important to use a two-step verification method, which is phishing resistant. So what we recommend here is, firstly, make sure your users aren't using text messages as their two-step verification method. Text messages can and are vulnerable to attack, so SIM swapping attack. Plus, text messages appear on your phone even if it is locked. So text messages, phone calls aren't a very good and very secure two-step verification method. The best method, if you can, is to use a physical key like a YubiKey or Google Titan key or a passkey. So all modern mobile devices can act as a passkey. Laptops with a TPM security chip can act as a passkey as well, and many of these devices will have either fingerprint or facial recognition, and they're making that passkey then even stronger. And you can configure this all in your admin console as well. So if we jump back into here, go and look at our security settings this time under authentication and two-step verification. First thing
Peter, just to mention as well, it might be worth showing on our Workspace audit tool, all these settings are flagged as critical security risks, and then you can just go through and fix them all through there as well.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so if we start with this setting then, so in here, if we just turn on two-step verification enforcement, by default, it goes to this. So any method can be used. What we want to see is, at least as a start, only any method apart from text messages or phone calls, or for your high-value admin users or other VIP users, think about only allowing security keys as well. So that is the strongest method. Highly recommend admins only use a physical security key. And as Dan says, you can actually quickly check this using our tool. And this is also in the free version. So within here, you can go into identity and authentication. And if we search for methods, we can then see that some of our OUs, like our admin OU, has been correctly configured. But we've got some of our OUs here which are still accepting any method. One thing to note though is, before you do change the method type here, worthwhile letting your users know that you will be changing that, so they have a chance then to enroll another two-step verification method. And if you wanted to get a report of who is using what method, you can actually do this using the investigation tool. So if we go into the Security Center, investigation tool, and then in here, if we look at user log events, we can actually search by what method type your users are actually using. So if we go down to user log events and then add a filter for challenge type, and the challenge type is IDV pre-registered phone. If we just hit a search now, we can then see who's used that type recently. Okay, that's everything about phishing. Anything you wanted to add here, Dan, or any questions from any of the audience so far?
No, I think you said pretty well the methods of two-step verification. Yeah, any comments or stories to share about phishing from anyone? Questions? Very quiet today.
Okay, well, if any come up. Oh, any recommendations for phishing training for staff? Yeah, so we work with a couple of vendors, don't we, Dan? Who do that?
Yeah, I work with Cybernet and KnowBe4. There's also InfoSec is another one. I would recommend try to do something that's kind of a bit gamified and doesn't make your staff feel like they've been caught out too much. I think that's often a criticism from staff members that they feel like they were tricked into this. But yeah, Jeff, if you want to demo of either of those two, we can talk. Sure. But there's several of these training / apps where it's kind of typically the good ones will give you they'll do an easier phishing attack, and then it will get harder, and people will see if they can spot them.
Cool. Yeah, good tip. So on to the next threat now. So OAuth token abuse. So one of the things we've seen through doing our security audits is just the huge number now of third-party apps which are being used by teachers and by students. Now, students is fairly locked down normally on domains in my experience, but staff is more often than not just left wide open, so staff can just use any third-party app that they wish to. And of course, there's risks here. You've got to trust that app. Is that an app you want to trust with your data? Is it an app you want to trust your staff giving that app access to their Drive and Gmail, which might contain sensitive data? But there's also kind of supply chain risks in here as well, with third-party vendors using other third-party vendors. And we have seen breaches occur. Like, I don't know if anyone heard about it, but last year there was a SalesLoft drift scenario where attackers compromised that vendor to steal OAuth tokens and then gave them access to Workspace and other accounts as well. So they didn't even have the user's passwords, but able to gain access using the OAuth tokens because those users were using that app and had it integrated. So really, really important to audit what apps you're using and make sure you're taking a zero trust approach to how you're handling third-party apps. So linking into this as well is also the rise of kind of shadow AI. So I'm sure you see it on your own domains, teachers, students signing into various AI tools and using those, copying, pasting information into those, sharing sensitive data in there potentially as well. So again, really important to audit what third-party apps your users are using. So we've got a few tools which can help with this. So let's start with what's available built in via the admin console first of all. So if we go into here and go into access and data control and API controls, and then within here, I first recommend looking just at your overall settings. So currently for unconfigured third-party apps, students can access apps that only request basic sign-in info, but for staff and users over 18, it's wide open. They can access any app at all. So you could lock that down from here. Another approach you could take is to think about it in terms of services. So if we go into manage services, from here, we can restrict access to things like Drive and Gmail. So this still gives staff some freedom to access different apps and explore those. But if that app asks to access to see their Google Drive or create things in their Google Drive, it won't be allowed that if we're restricting it here. An admin would need to trust it and review that app first of all. So I always recommend starting with restricting access to both Drive and Gmail. And one of the things you can do in here is you can configure your apps, of course. And you can also see what apps your users are using. But one of the benefits of the tool we developed, and this is something we've been using in our security audits for a long time, is we've developed a third-party app report here. And this gives you a list of all apps being used by your users, but we're also assigning that app a risk score. So this shows, so let's just filter by critical. This will show apps with risky permissions. So on this domain, for example, we've got an app here called GPT Workspace, for instance. And it's been highlighted as risky because it's got full read-write access to Google Drive to Google Sheets, Slides, and Docs. And we can also see here what users have been accessing that app as well. Then if that's an app you don't want your users to use, you can then jump back into the admin console from here and then quickly block that app from other users. You can also look at this based on app type as well. So if we want to just look at what apps are using Google Drive, we can filter that here. So what I always recommend schools do is, before blocking any services here, so before restricting access to Drive and Gmail, first of all, do an audit of your apps which are using Drive and Gmail. Go through those, trust those which you do want your users to be using, and block those which you don't, and then go back into your admin console and then start restricting access to those services. So then any future apps that want access to Drive or Gmail, you get a chance to review that, make sure its privacy policy is compliant with your data protection laws, and then you can allow it for your staff. Any questions on any of that, or any other thoughts from anyone on the call?
Yeah, I think third-party apps is definitely an under-considered threat that people don't put enough thought on, given the amount of apps that often many schools have given access to the Google Workspace. Yeah,
and it is tough because there is, ordinarily when I've audited domains, there's often thousands of apps, and that's a huge amount to sort through. But I think once you've do that audit of what apps your users are using, move to a zero trust approach for any future apps, and then you're in a much better standpoint.
Yeah, whitelisting is a way to go, definitely. Then
I was just going to mention, Dan and I were looking at an app yesterday we were going to use, and it's good that Google offers a granular list now of permissions. But I looked down the list and it said access and be able to delete all of your calendars, access and delete all of your Drive files. It's like everything. Okay. Well, it's good to have that flag, certainly. But yeah, when you have, I think it was in Hong Kong, just thinking of you, Sean, I'm trying to remember, somebody in our meeting had over 1,200 third-party apps on the domain at that time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, James. So if you do trust or allow an app, Google did add a new option last year. So here we can either trust that app fully, which trusts all current and future kind of requests it's going to make. We could set it to limited. What limited means is it can only access the scopes which are unrestricted. But as James said here, we can be a lot more specific now, and to only allow access to specific data and specific scopes as well, as we can actually tailor that then. So if that app then adds other scopes in the future, they won't automatically be allowed. So, and of course, the last option here is you can block that. Okay, our last one now is configuration drift. So this is thinking about things like settings, and as they change over time, and being aware of what's changing there, but also things such as publicly exposed shared drives and Google groups, which you might not be aware of, and also auditing things like your domain-wide delegation as well. So let's just dive into some of those areas now on the admin console. So starting with, as we're in API controls, let's have a quick look at domain-wide delegation. So what this enables is different services to run as or impersonate a user on your domain. So useful for tools like GAM or for our tool when you're auditing a domain, but important to review this list every so often, just to make sure that the things here created by yourself or other admins are still necessary and still being used and are still required. And if they're not, then yeah, delete those. So do a regular review here. I'd recommend maybe doing a quarterly review of these, just to make sure everything's still needed and up to date there. Cool. I'll ask. Yeah. So we're talking about configuration drift. So we talked about domain-wide delegation. The other thing to think about here is shared drives. So shared drives, always finding these being left open so they can be shared externally, sometimes created by anyone on the domain as well. So first thing I recommend doing here is just looking at your overall shared drive settings. So if we go into Drive and Docs now and have a look at our sharing settings, and within here we've got a section for shared drives. So from here we can restrict who can create shared drives. I recommend definitely don't let students create shared drives, perhaps not even staff, and just trusted individuals. Otherwise it can get unmanageable very, very quickly. But from here you can also restrict what can happen within those shared drives. So you can prevent shared drives from being shared externally. You can prevent members with manager access from overriding these settings. And you can also prevent people from downloading, copying and printing things on shared drives as well. You can also see your shared drives from here as well. So if we go into, where is it, manage shared drives, you can see what shared drives you have in your domain. But from here, it's quite hard to see how those shared drives are being shared. So one of the things we're keen to build into our tool is firstly, a check for your shared drive settings. So this will highlight how your shared drives policies are configured for your domain and for what OUs. So instantly highlighting those configuration gaps. But further down here, we've got a detailed report showing all of our shared drives and highlighting any shared drives that have external members, and particularly those with external members which are managers for these shared drives. And also looking at shared drives which are orphaned, so shared drives which have no members or no managers. And the big risk here, and I have seen this happen on school domains, is with users, could be a student, it could be a member of staff, creating a shared drive, adding their personal account to that shared drive, and then leaving the organization, and they're still using data at the school and still using the storage space despite not actually being at the school any longer. Or in the worst cases, an account becoming compromised and then an attacker setting up shared drives at your school and using your storage space and accessing data on those. So really important to audit those and yeah, do a review of what shared drives you have available there. And yeah, the last one here is just orphaned app integrations. So that's kind of linking in with the discussion we had earlier around third-party apps. Important to review those regularly, look at when those apps were last used. If they've not been used for a long time, then maybe consider revoking that access as well. And yeah, so we've used this tool as well just as part of this discussion. If you're interested, then please do sign up for a trial. We've got a free trial where you can scan your entire domain, you get an overall risk score, and you get detailed recommendations for the top 10, our top 10 recommendations for your domain, which is a really good starting point just to get those top 10 fixed. But then if you want to see further, then yeah, please do talk to us for getting more details around that, and you can then explore some of the more detailed reports in here. So we
just to add, Peter, as well, if anyone wants to sign up, anyone who hasn't tried this yet, who wants to sign up now on the call, we'll upgrade you to the pro version for the trial. So when you're doing a trial, you'll get access to the full report for a week. So special offer, if you want to sign up now, anyone on the call, we'll give you the full pro version as part of the trial.
Yeah, exactly. And that means you can go into all of these areas, see all of the detailed policy information for these. So API controls we've got here, identity and authentication. We've got pages for each of the services on Google Workspace as well. So you can see how those are configured and compliant for each of these. You can also see additional information. So if I was to take one of the third-party apps, for instance, controls, I can see here exactly why this is important. I can go and learn more about that. Also get a direct link to fix this in the admin console. And we also now highlight what cybersecurity frameworks this aligns with as well. So by restricting access to this helps you with compliance for CIS framework and also the CISA framework as well in NIST. Then further down here, we've got some more in-depth reports. So we touched on the shared drive reports and third-party app report. We've also got in-depth reports for Google Groups. So looking for Google Groups with risky privileges, which might be available externally. Groups with external memberships as well. a user security report. So this looks at inactive user accounts, looks at two-step verification enforcement. You can also see, just a quick check, are your admins using two-step verification, or do you have inactive users who have Education Plus licenses to help you make better use of those? So you can explore all of that from here. And the last one, an admin role report as well. So good to review your admin roles, make sure they are kind of focused to what they actually need to be doing.